Of course, Jake DeBrusk scored the game winner in his return to Boston.
You're Locked On Bruins, your daily podcast on the Boston Bruins. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is up, Bruins fans, and welcome back to the Locked On Boston Bruins podcast. I'm your host, Ian McLaren, and this is a daily show where we discuss all things Spoked Bee. Today is Wednesday, November 27th, and I want to thank you so much for making Locked On Bruins part of your daily routine. Free and available on your favorite podcast app and on YouTube, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. And today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. New customers can place a $5 bet and you'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. And before we get started, I know what you're saying. Ian, I thought you were going to be off today, traveling to Ottawa to be with your mom. Well, the best laid plans. Sometimes life gives you lemons, and you make lemonade. Other times, you just choke on the lemons, and that's kind of what happened today as I took my van in to get the winter tires put on, and it needs more extensive work, meaning I am homebound and will try again in a few weeks. But thank you for all the well wishes for my mom, for our family, and such is life. We press on and discuss the Boston Bruins, who lost last night to the Vancouver Canucks, thanks to, in part, Jake DeBrusk's return. Before we get into the storylines, stats, and signals from that game, as well as preview tonight's game against the New York Islanders, a quick reminder, you can find the podcast on social media at Locked NHL Bruins. You can find me, my hockey thoughts, dad jokes at Ian C. McLaren. Now, a couple days ago, we took a look at the upcoming schedule, and if there was one game that I thought the Bruins were likely to lose, it would be last night's game against Vancouver. In fact, they played very well and probably deserved to win this game based on the underlying numbers. For those asking, I look for those at naturalstatric.com. We'll discuss the stats here coming up in a little bit. But the big story, of course, last night was the return of Jake DeBrusk, who played all of his games up to this season as a member of the Boston Bruins. And as fate would have it, he corralled a loose puck near the goal mouth, tucked it in the wide open net for his sixth goal of the season, breaking a scoreless tie that was upheld after review as the Bruins challenged it for, I couldn't remember if it was a high stick or off the glove, whatever. We've seen this kind of thing come back before. I think there was even a Jake DeBrusk goal that was disallowed for a similar situation in the playoffs even. He himself thought it might have been questionable, but he wasn't not going to put it in because you never know. He called it a lucky bounce. And again, in years past, he's had those kind of goals disallowed. Funny how things work out sometimes. DeBrusk, Danton Heinen were met with standing ovations earlier in the game after a video tribute, especially DeBrusk showcasing his best moments in Boston. But once he scored, the boos kind of came down, and it was the reality of him playing for a different team at this point. And he said it was tough, not easy. Lots of great memories in Boston. When you're 18 through like 27, you fall in love with the city. Highs, lows, lots of different things. But he said it was a cool moment in a day that was pretty weird overall. And you can understand how it would be weird for him to come back. Fans, of course, unhappy with the result, unhappy with DeBrusk scoring the game-winning goal. He even said the Bruins played a better game. They were shooting pucks from everywhere, but the Canucks were able to hold on, get the 2 points on the road, get the job done. Sometimes that's what good teams do, is find ways to win, he said. Kevin Lankinen stood on his head, and it was one of those things where it was awesome to be part of and nice to contribute as well. Jake DeBrusk said. Of course, he spent 7 years with the club, 266 points, 138 goals in 465 regular season games, coming up big in the playoffs numerous times, of course. He said playing in Boston as a visitor, not easy. Even when you have a video, people cheering you on and talking to you. But they just did what they needed to get the win. And the Bruins now 2-1 in the Joe Sacco era with only limited success in terms of goal scoring. They've scored 3 goals in 3 games. They've allowed 3 goals in 3 games. Perhaps, as we're not really stretching here to say it's more of a roster issue. And when you let a guy like Jake DeBrusk walk in free agency and effectively don't replace him, even a Danton Heinen, look back at the playoffs last year. Both of these guys were in the top 6. They were not replaced. You have Elias Lindholm, of course, Nikita Zadorov, but Jake DeBrusk just brought something different to the table in terms of the penalty kill, his personality, his ability to put the puck in the net. And although he, of course, is a bit of a streaky player, he's definitely finding his groove as a member of the Vancouver Canucks and is on his way now to a career year if things continue along the same lines. He's on pace for 25 goals, 33 assists for 57 points, 160 shots on goal. His career highs, of course, 50 points with the Bruins back in 2022-23 in only 64 games. And he's hit 27 goals twice, also 25 goals one other year. His current shooting percentage suggests that, perhaps there's another level even for him to hit, as he is at, 15.4 right now. If he can get a shot rate up, then, things are tracking for a good season for Jake DeBrusk. And to be honest, the Bruins really do miss him. And bit of a unforced error for Don Sweeney just to let him go for nothing. And of course, he makes things happen out there, and he scored the game winner against the Boston Bruins last night. That was the major storyline for the Bruins in their game last night against the Canucks. Not only that, secondary storyline perhaps, just an inability to break through offensively. And we'll discuss some of the key stats and signals to take away from last night's game here as the podcast continues. A quick PSA for anyone who rents. If you haven't heard of Built, you're about to thank me. Earning points on rent is now a reality when you pay your rent through Built. You don't even have to check with your landlord to start earning points that you can use towards flights, hotel stays, fitness classes, and even your next rent payment. Let me break it down for you. There's no cost to join Built, and as a member, you'll earn valuable points on rent and on your everyday spending. Built points can be transferred to your favorite hotels and airlines, and even the ones you haven't heard of. There are over 500 airlines and 700,000 hotels and properties around the world where you can redeem your Built points. Start earning points on rent you're already paying by going to joinbuilt.com/lockedonnhl. That's joinbilt.com/lockedonnhl. Make sure to use that URL so you know, or they know, that we sent you. That's joinbuilt.com/lockedonnhl to start earning points on your rent payments today. It's game time right now. With the Game Time app, you can get their Game Time picks, which makes getting tickets for your favorite live events even easier. Game Time Picks filters out the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats, so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. So when you want to go to your next Bruins game or a concert, see a comedian near you, all you have to do is go to Game Time, toggle in the all-in pricing so there are no surprise fees at checkout, and you will get the Game Time ticket coverage, the most flexible customer service policy in the ticketing industry. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. Again, terms do apply, but create an account, redeem code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. Download Game Time today, because what time is it? It's game time. Looking at the stats from last night's game, you would definitely expect the Bruins to have come out on top. At 5-on-5 last night, the Bruins had 71.2% of the shot attempts, 67.6% of shots out shooting Vancouver, 25-12 at 5-on-5. They had 27 scoring chances compared to only 8 for the Canucks. 13 high danger chances compared to only 1 for the Canucks. That's a 93% advantage. And expected goals, adding that all up, the attempts, the shots, the high danger scoring chances. Bruins expected goals were 2.35 compared to only 0.36 for the Canucks. In all situations, not that much different. The Bruins had 3.44 expected goals, 90% of the high danger chances, 36 scoring chances compared to only 11 for the Canucks. Shots were 30-15. And yet the Bruins just could not score last night. They could not get the puck past Kevin Lankinen. And I believe it was Charlie McAvoy who, after the game, said, "It's like they're dammed up and it's just about to break anytime now." Will that be tonight against the New York Islanders? Who knows? But looking at things on paper, the Bruins really did get a raw deal last night. Not only losing the game 2-0 when they had dominant possession, but the fact that it was Jake DeBrusk who scored the game winner in probably, again, the weirdest game of his life, he said. He did add the guys were great, and he got a nice reception from the fans, also from his teammates. Jeremy Swayman not really tested, and of course, the Bruins disputed the power play goal that Vancouver did end up scoring. The other goal came later in the game on an empty net from local boy Connor Garland, so another insult to injury there. The Bruins killed off, one of the 2 power plays. They were not able to break through on the power play for the 3rd game in a row, but otherwise were incredibly dominant in this one and should have come out on top, all things being equal. If you looked at that game on paper, saw just the underlying stats, you would think it was at least a 3-1 game for the Boston Bruins. Unfortunately, they were not able to beat Lankinen. The Canucks got the lucky break on the DeBrusk goal, and that was all they needed. Mason Lohrei afterwards said he believes they're playing a good brand of hockey. The Canucks got a bounce on the power play. The Bruins did not get any bounces, but they feel good about their game, and they're going to start putting pucks in the net and go from there. McAvoy, like I mentioned, said, quote, "The dam is going to break at some point. Just hope it's soon. We've just got to keep playing the right way. Stressing defense, doing a great job of it. And they've only allowed, 3 goals over their past 3 games, but they also have only scored 3 goals over their last 3 games as well. And that's really not going to get it done." So we hope, and we'll preview this game coming up in a bit, but hopefully the Bruins are able to break through tonight here against the New York Islanders. We did not really get to do the power rankings yet this week. Perhaps we'll do that tomorrow's podcast or on Friday, but the Bruins now scored only 51 goals this season, which is fewest in the Atlantic Division. In fact, it's the fewest in the Eastern Conference. Could be the fewest league-wide, actually. Nope, only the Anaheim Ducks have scored fewer goals in the NHL this season. The Bruins credited with 51 goals. The Ducks and the Chicago Blackhawks have 50. The Bruins' goal differential now sits at minus 21. Only the San Jose Sharks, who won the lottery last season, the Montreal Canadiens, and the Pittsburgh Penguins are worse. Right now, the Bruins sit in the outside the playoff picture. They're a 500 record behind the Buffalo Sabres, who are at 548 and who have won 3 in a row. The Panthers have fallen down. They're only at 568. The Lightning at 600. Toronto Maple Leafs at 667. And we'll update the Atlantic Division power rankings a bit more in detail later on this week. But Buffalo really has the look of a team that could take Boston's playoff spot. If you look at the Metro, Devils are in first place. Hurricanes, Capitals, Rangers, all very strong. The New York Islanders are only 2 points back of the Bruins with a game in hand. So if the Bruins want to keep pace, they really need to take this game tonight. And so those are the key stats to look at when you're looking at signals moving forward. Tyler Johnson was taken out of the lineup last night in favor of Mark McLaughlin. Kind of a curious decision, seeing as Johnson helped set up the power play goal scored by Justin Brazeau the game before. If the Bruins want to get their offense going, they probably should recall Matt Poitras, Georgi Merkulov. We talked yesterday about the possibility of looking at a Chris Kreider trade. That's always on the table, but it's going to be very difficult to pull that off with the limited assets that the Bruins have. Right now, they need to look internally, and there's some guys at the AHL level. We saw Merkulov come in and be very effective. Not sure why they decided to send him back down in favor of McLaughlin, but for me, bring him back up, get Poitras back up here, and try to get the most out of those two at the very least, because what's going on up here just is not working at the moment. The Bruins will be in action tonight against the New York Islanders. And again, we're looking at some signals, some trends to take away here. The Bruins kind of flatlining. They've gone 2-1 under Joe Sacco, but they haven't made any gains really in terms of goal differential. 3 goals for, 3 goals against. The power play has improved a little bit. The penalty kill could have been a bit better last night, obviously allowing that 1 goal on the power play scored by Jake DeBrusk. The power play still dead last in the NHL, behind only tonight's opponent, the New York Islanders. And the penalty kill is 23rd in the NHL. They're still allowing, on average, more shots on goal than they're producing, but that has changed under Joe Sacco, to be sure. And if we look at the games since he took over, the Bruins much improved in that respect. In fact, they are 11th in the NHL over the past 3 games in terms of shots for, and shots against. They're actually allowing the fewest in the NHL over the past 3 games. So it's a very small sample size, but big improvements defensively for this team. But we need that to translate into shots on goal and goals. And hopefully guys like David Pastrnak, Pavel Zacha, I'm looking at those two specifically, can break through tonight here against the New York Islanders, a game that we will preview here as the podcast continues. Get in on the action this NFL Thanksgiving weekend with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. With FanDuel right now, they're offering the opportunity to get $150 in bonus bets if you win on your first $5 bet. Go to the FanDuel page, check out the over-under for tonight's Bruins-Islanders game, which is set at 6.5 goals. Put some money on probably the under. And if you hit that, you get $150 in bonus bets. FanDuel Sports app gives you everything you need to place live bets on the NFL all in one place. When you get a hunch in the middle of a game, you can check the latest stats, view live play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today, and you'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. That's FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch and make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. All right, 3 more winnable games on the schedule for the Bruins here coming up this week. They play tonight against the New York Islanders. Then they will host the Pittsburgh Penguins, the worst team in the Eastern Conference, on Friday, Black Friday, 6:30 p.m. start. And then they'll host the Montreal Canadiens on Sunday afternoon for the culmination of the centennial celebration. 100th birthday for the Bruins. Hey, it just happens to be my birthday as well. Not quite that old, despite how I may come across. Now, let's preview tonight's game, specifically against the New York Islanders. And let me bring up the page here that gives us a look at what the Bruins will be up against. The New York Islanders, 8-9-5 so far this season, is the first of 3 meetings between these two teams. They'll play again on January 5th and then on February 27th. The Islanders have lost 4 of their past 5 games. Their only win coming against the pre-Jim Montgomery St. Louis Blues. They're coming off a loss to Detroit, in which they were up in that one and failed to close things out. 4-3-3 over their past 10 overall, just slightly better than the Bruins, who are 4-4-2. Now, they are led in scoring by Kyle Palmieri, Bo Horvat, Anders Lee on the blue line. Noah Dobson off to a very slow start. And Alexander Romanov is a key player for them. He's been out of the lineup, but he can block shots like nobody's business. Newcomer Max Siplikov has made a real impact for this team, and he's a guy that you should not sleep on by any means when it comes to someone who can put the puck in the net. Now, goaltending-wise, Ilya Sorokin, always strong, 5-5-3 with a .917 save percentage. Semyon Varlamov, 3-4-2 with an .898 save percentage for the Bruins. It will likely be Joonas Korpisalo, 4-2-1 with a .911 save percentage. That's after Jeremy Swayman got the start last night and allowed 1 goal on 14 shots. So very quiet night for him, and only Jake DeBrusk was able to beat him. Unfortunately, he did have, however, a .929 save percentage to raise his season number to an even .888. When it comes to team stats, I mentioned the power plays, both pretty brutal. Bruins at 32nd, the Islanders 31st. Penalty kills haven't been much better, but the Islanders 31st, so there's a chance the Bruins could capitalize on that if the Islanders take some penalties. They are the best face-off team in the NHL. The Bruins, much improved at 9th. Credit to Elias Lindholm coming in, John Beecher. That was a weakness for this team last year, and they've, to their credit, improved. The Bruins, the lowest goals for output on average this season, 2.22 goals per game. Team defense, not much better. They rank 20th. The Islanders are a decent defensive team, but they too are struggling offensively. So again, if you're looking at the over-under for this one, the over is not looking overly great tonight. Hopefully the Bruins can continue to generate that uneven shot differential. And if they're able to pepper whoever's in net with enough rubber, hopefully that dam will break, as Charlie McAvoy said. Be sure to be subscribed to Locked On Boston Bruins on YouTube. I'll do a quick short immediately after the game to bring you the latest there and any breaking news with the Bruins. We'll be back tomorrow. Yes, it's Thanksgiving, but hey, I'm Canadian, so I'll still be around. We'll break down this game against the Islanders and update the power rankings before, or maybe we'll do that Friday in advance of the game against the Penguins. Thanks again for all the support when it comes to the family stuff, personal stuff. Maybe you don't come here to hear about that from me, but hey, this is who I am, and this is what I talk about on this podcast. Try to be a little vulnerable every now and again and put some humanity on things. Please do subscribe if you have not already. Please do check out Locked On Fantasy Hockey Next, where Steal and Flip will give you everything you need to get a leg up on the competition this week. It's all part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your favorite team every single day. Happy Thanksgiving to everybody south of the border. Not necessarily an easy time for everybody, but just know that you're not alone. Please take care of yourselves, take care of each other, and if you need a break, come back, pop on the YouTube channel, drop some comments, or I'll be back with a fresh episode tomorrow. All right, that's it, everybody. Have a great rest of the day. We'll talk to you again here on the next episode of Locked On Boston Bruins.